So symvene is this new project I'm working on where you convene a symposium of experts to debate some topic, um, and your experts are created by you first interacting with the facilitator. So we're going to start with the research question that I want to pursue. I'm going to tell the pursuer this, and I'm just pasting this in. It's a canned example, but basically students are lagging behind in PISA scores, this international assessment of literacy skills, and in particular, they're falling behind on mathematical literacy. And so the scores have been declining. What are the causes and what actions could be taken to improve things? I can provide some source material for my research question itself, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have this document. It's a report on the 2022 PISA scores, focusing on the United States. And so the facilitator then wants to know how many members of the panel there should be. I'll just stick with the default of 3, and let's convene this panel. So, okay. The facilitator says, interesting topic. I have some clarifying questions though. You know, what's the angle, what's the audience? So let's say it's a policy brief. For the scope, what level? Let's talk K2, K-12 broadly. Sacred cows, are there any explanations or solutions you've already heard a lot about and want the panel to push past? Sure. Let's question the use of screens in the classroom. Ideological range. Do I want political tension? No political tension, let's say. Okay, so my facilitator will take that feedback and decide what's the right panel to convene to discuss this topic. So we'll give them a few moments. What the facilitator is now doing is essentially creating 3 new agents, or at least creating the prompts for 3 new agents. And let's take a look. So our first expert is a cognitive scientist. You are Dr. Vale, a cognitive scientist specializing in how the brain encodes and retrieves math knowledge. Okay, and so we have this, description of this person ending with the directive that they all end with, which is say full-name character, speak in first person, give substantive opinions, and keep them to roughly 200 to 300 words. Then it says, wants documents on, and it gives me some examples of what documents this person would be referencing in this debate. And so if I was really going to do this properly, I'd go out and, do my own research now, or I might be someone who already has these documents on hand, and now I'm just putting the right documents in the right place. For the sake of this demo, I'm just going to grab a couple papers that honestly probably don't correspond exactly to what this person wants, but let's just continue with the demo. So so we have a cognitive scientist, an EdTech researcher, and a curriculum and instruction specialist participating in this. I might want to add another expert or completely regenerate this panel. I have some options there. Maybe I want an actual classroom teacher in the mix. But again, let's just plow ahead, add some papers. And what we're doing when I'm adding these papers is basically forming a RAG, a database built on specific papers that represents each of these experts' knowledge in these areas. So they don't just have a prompt; they have some real information to be referencing rather than just the general LLM approach. So now we'll go ahead and start this roundtable. There we go. They grounded the panel in 6 passages from one document. Actually, that's incorrect. That's a bug. It did report 7 documents here. I think this is just incorrectly written. But nonetheless, what we have now is, okay, round 1, what's everyone's initial perspective? So the cognitive scientist weighs in. And you can see here, they are, okay, referencing specific data points from specific sources. And so this is the important part here, is that I control exactly what they're arguing from, and I keep them on track, and I prevent hallucinations by referencing real research papers. They complain about what they don't see in the sources. What I need is curricular detail. So this already tells me that, okay, I might want to rerun this debate and include some better papers to give them the detail they need. And they make some initial recommendation. Then Professor March jumps in and immediately refers to what Dr. Vale just said. So they are building on each other's arguments already. And yeah, so some arguments are beginning. And then finally, Ms. Okafor weighs in and establishes her initial position. Then we go through a round 2, responses and pushback. So now each agent is now speaking critically, specifically of the other agents. So we're getting this specific pushback. And see, this is what I'm really going for with this. If I just make myself a rag that I consider to be an expert on some area that I have questions about and start interacting with that rag, I may have built that rag with a specific set of documents that I have found, but it's harder, if I'm not an expert, for me to really keep it on track, to keep it honest. But here I'm having the agents critique each other's work as they go. And my hope is that that interaction, that bouncing off of each other, helps keep things more on track. So anyway, Dr. Vale makes their responses and pushback, Professor March, Ms. Okafor. So we have a nice round 2 of our debate. Finally, after making their initial proposals and then hearing pushback from the others, they each make their final recommendations. And so the cognitive scientist is looking for an audit of instructional time and coherence. They recommend stabilizing teaching positions and pay competitively, and so on and so forth. Professor March comes out with their action plan. They too are looking for curriculum audits. They're recommending particular studies that are done, and so on. Then finally, I create a synthesis. This synthesis looks at all that's transpired and says, well, here's where the experts agree. Here's where they disagree. Here are some concrete next steps. And an assessment of the uncertainty of this whole process. And so this is what tells me, it gives me some indication of how, let's say, valid this debate was and what might make it a better debate. So on the basis of what's in the honest uncertainty, I may decide, you know what, that just wasn't a good run. Let's do it again. I'm going to make some course corrections. I'm going to look for different personalities to be involved or different papers and other data to base the debate on.